Hi everyone, I'm Peyton Nyquist, founder and CEO of Numinous Wellness, and today I'm here to discuss clinical trials, what they are, what the process is, and how they are being used within the psychedelic sector. Clinical trials are essentially research studies that test and evaluate new drugs and treatments for a wide range of health conditions. A clinical trial involves volunteers, also known as participants, to test these new medical treatments. Clinical trials are considered interventional studies, meaning that the trial participants receive specific interventions according to the research plan or protocol created by investigators. These interventions can be new drugs, devices, or treatments. The new intervention being evaluated is often compared to existing treatments or a placebo that contains no active ingredients. Throughout the clinical trial, investigators will measure the outcomes of the trial to determine the safety and efficacy of the tested intervention. There are actually 4 distinct phases of clinical trials, each with its own objectives, which I'll discuss on a little later. Overall, clinical trials are an important step in developing new treatments for serious conditions and diseases. In fact, all new treatments must go through clinical trials process before being approved by the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA in the US, or by Health Canada. Clinical trials can vary in scope, size, and cost, and they can involve a single research site or multiple centers in one country or several. Every clinical trial is led by a principal investigator who is often a medical doctor. Clinical studies also have a research team that may include doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals. Clinical studies can be funded, also known as sponsored, by pharmaceutical companies, academic medical centers, nonprofit groups, and other organizations. Certain functions necessary to the trial, such as monitoring and lab work, may be managed by an outsourced partner, such as a contract research organization or a central laboratory. Costs for clinical trials can range into the billions of dollars per approved drug. A clinical trial protocol is a document used to define and manage the trial throughout the study. All study investigators are expected to strictly observe the protocol. The protocol contains a defined study plan to ensure the safety and health of the trial subjects, and to provide the precise template for study investigators to follow. This process allows uniformly taken data to be combined across all clinical trial sites. Merely providing a new treatment to a clinical trial participant may not provide enough data for certain phases of the study. At times, certain trial participants are provided with a placebo, or dosing with no active ingredient, to provide researchers with a comparative control group. These subjects are assigned randomly without informing them to which group they belonged. In fact, many trials are double-blinded, meaning that the researchers also do not know whether the participant they are studying has received the active drug or a placebo. Assigning a clinical trial participant to a placebo group can pose an ethical problem, however, as these participants are often also seeking treatment for their conditions. Many studies will provide those who originally received a placebo with access to the active drug being tested at a later stage of the study. There are 4 phases of clinical trials, with each phase focused on evaluating different aspects of safety and efficacy. Phase 1 clinical trials aim to answer the question, is the treatment safe? Phase 1 studies usually test new drugs for the first time in a small group of people to evaluate a safe dosage range and identify side effects. Safety is the primary concern. Phase 1 studies of a new drug are usually the first that involve people. Often these studies are done to find the most effective dose of the new treatment that can be given safely without causing severe side effects. Phase 1 trials are also looking at what the drug does to the body and what the body does with the drug. Phase 2 clinical trials aim to answer the question, does the treatment work? Phase 2 studies test treatments that have been found to be safe in Phase 1, but now need a larger group of human participants to monitor for any adverse effects. In phase 2 trials, researchers look to evaluate how well the drug works and to continue safety assessments in a larger group of study participants. If the development of a new drug fails for safety or efficacy reasons, it's most often occurred within the phase 2 trial. Phase 3 clinical trials try to answer the question, is the new treatment better than what's already available? Phase 3 clinical trials compare the safety and effectiveness of the new treatment against the current standard treatment. This phase of study is often conducted on larger populations, often several hundred people, and sometimes in different regions and countries. These studies tend to last longer than phase 1 and phase 2 studies, but it is generally the step right before a new treatment is approved. Placebos may be used in some phase 3 studies, but they're never used alone if there's a treatment available that works. Some studies will evaluate the effectiveness of a new treatment compared to an existing medical treatment already approved for use. Once a new drug or treatment passes through phase 3 studies, it is usually submitted for FDA and/or Health Canada approval for public use. Phase 4 clinical trials assess what else do we need to know. Phase 4 studies will sometimes take place after it is approved for use in a country, meaning you can access the drugs used in the Phase 4 trial without being a clinical trial participant. Drugs approved by the FDA or Health Canada are often evaluated for a long period of time in Phase 4 studies. Even after testing a new medicine on thousands of people, all the effects of the treatment may not be known. This post-marketing surveillance phase is designed to detect any rare or long-term adverse effects over a much larger patient population and longer period of time than was possible during the Phase 1 through Phase 3 clinical trials. In the United States, when Phase 3 clinical trials, or sometimes Phase 2 clinical trials, show a new drug is more effective or safer than current treatment, a new drug application is submitted to the FDA for approval. The FDA reviews the results from the clinical trials and other relevant information. Based on the review, the FDA will decide whether to approve the treatment for use in patients with the health condition the drug was tested on. If approved, the new treatment often becomes a standard of care, and newer drugs may be tested against it before they can be approved. The process is similar for drug applications in Canada. There are many important studies underway for the medical use of psychedelic substances, led or sponsored by a variety of nonprofits, academic institutions, and for-profit companies. We believe the most impactful study underway at the moment evaluating psychedelic-assisted therapy is the MAPS Phase 3 study for MDMA-assisted therapy for post-traumatic stress disorder. Previous study phases have already indicated very promising results for the treatment and potential cure of PTSD using MDMA-assisted therapy. This trial is expected to wrap up in the next year, and we look forward to seeing the results. Another important study is the Compass Pathways Phase 3 study of psilocybin, which is expected to begin soon. Want to learn more? Watch our other videos as we explore psychedelic substances and the use of psychedelic therapy in more detail.